And welcome back to Yarn Lane. You can tell it's Yarn Lane because I've pinched Helen's scarf. Isn't this lovely? I love this. It's like the snowball scarf. It's got little pom-poms on it. I just think this is lovely. Anyway, so today we are lucky enough to have Helen from Woolly Chic back with us. She has got two, sort of three different designs, and we've got a whole choice of colourways as well. So I'm going to whiz through the kit so you can see what there is. Pop them in your basket, then you've got it, because you know what it's like on Yarn Lane, particularly with Woolly Chic, we do tend to sell out. So get them in your basket and check them out. And then we'll get on to Helen and she'll do the demonstration. So this one I'm wearing, that's about to come up on the screen now. Just want to give you the codes. Okay, so this is the natural heart spun shawl kit. So shall I show you what you get in the kit? Well, you get to make this beautiful scarf for a start. So in the kit, you get a hank of this beautiful heart spun yarn. Now this yarn is produced by the sheep from Helen's Brothers. Is this one not Helen's Brothers? This is the other one. Oh dear, sorry, just erase that. I got really confused by which one we're on. Yes, but this is beautiful. Oh, now put my glasses on. I'm fine now. So this is our heart spun 4-ply yarn. This is so lovely and soft, isn't it? You can tell it's 4-ply as well, can't you? Because it's really loose and lovely. And it has pom-poms on it. Now, in the kit, you get a whole hank of yarn and all the instructions you need to do it. But you don't get the needles, but we'll talk about those later because the needles are all on the website. I've made sure we've bought in exactly the ones you want. So we'll talk about those later. We'll spend ages now. And also, it has these little pom-poms. We also have the pom-poms on the website. But these come in these beautiful bags. Aren't they lovely? Very nice little cotton tote bag to put, which is great. So that while you're doing all your knitting, you can keep it in there. Look, how nice is that? Free bag, free bag. I love that. It's got a little knitty sheep on, sitting in a knitty tree. Right, kit number 2. Oh, the other. Oh, sorry, confused today. Here is the other one. Look at that. Raspberry. That's really nice. Now, Helen has got a sample of this on her table because she's going to be knitting with it, so you can see that one in a minute. But this one is called Raspberry. I like the way it's not a really, really solid colour, but it's got sort of a mix of like natural and solid together, so it's a bit of a like a raspberry ripple. More raspberry than ripple. And obviously full instructions, so that all comes together in there. Right, now that's the 2 colourways of the 4-ply. This one, so it's the same, it's amazing that this is the same shawl, isn't it? Don't you think? This is amazing. So let's go for this. I'm going to show you this colourway first. So this is the same. I'm going to have to take that one off and put this one on so you can see how it works. So this is exactly the same shawl, only this one is in double knit. So it's really, really soft and chunkier. So it's the same pattern, but just in a different yarn. And this one's got really big pom-poms on it. Oh, I love this. I don't know, do you wear it like this? I think I probably would, actually.
And then you could put a shawl pin.
Yeah, and a shawl pin, yes. Which we have got. So I'll show you the shawl pins later. But you could wear it as a shawl like that. Or you could wear it, but it's so lovely, isn't it? This one comes in, let me show you the wrong one. Where's the bag?
That one, the blue one.
There are 3 colourways and I was always going to open the wrong one first. So this one is denim, natural and grey, obviously, because those are the 3 colours. So in the kit as well, obviously, you get the full instructions, everything you need to know. Oh, now that's really good. I like the way Helen's put tick boxes on these. So you can tick. That really appeals to me. I would be crossing them out and then that's a shame because then you wouldn't use it again, but you can tick them as you do it. So this is beautiful. So you don't get the needles in here, but we do have them available and we'll talk about those later. So you've got all the yarn that you need to make this. It all comes in this little cotton bag with full instructions. Right, so let me take that one off. Ugh. So this has got we'll talk about the yarn in a minute because this has got a mixture of yarn, the Jacobs yarn and the woolly sheet. So this has got the Pembrokeshire double knit as well. So this is where I'm getting really confused. And we'll talk about that in a minute because there's a whole story and reason behind Helen's yarn, which she will be able to explain to you better than I can. So we'll do that one in a minute. Right, I'm just going to put that one down. So this is the other colourway. Right, so in this, Helen has got this one on her desk, so you can see this one in a minute. So it's exactly the same beautiful shawl. You can tell this is pure wool. It just has that feel, real quality feel. I think when you spend a lot of time working crochet or knitting or whatever craft, it's really nice to use something that's good quality. This will last. You'll be able to use this for a long time. This would make a fantastic gift, whether you were a gift to yourself because you want it, whether you want to give it as a kit to somebody, or whether you actually want to make it for them. This is just, it's just lovely quality. Even the pom-poms, I think because they're made in pure wool, they feel very different to when you make an acrylic pom-pom. They're lovely. So this is exactly the same shawl, but in these 3 colours. It's like an ice cream parlour, isn't it? You've got raspberry and vanilla and cappuccino, I feel.
Yeah.
I feel. It's like an ice cream. I love the raspberry. That's my favourite. But they just feel lovely, and I love the balls. They're just really just squishy and, yeah, manageable. Manageable, I think that's what it is. But they are just really lovely colourways. But it should be called the ice cream parlour one. Then we've got the cowls. Now there are 3 of these. Yeah. Well, I've got 2
I've
here.
got the third one.
And Helen's got the other one, part work there. So let's start with, oh look, did I get, no, that's the, I am going to pick up the purple one. So this is in 4-ply. Even I know, that is definitely in 4-ply. Yes. Look at this, isn't this lovely? So it's pure wool again. The needles don't come in the kit, but you do get all the yarn and the instructions you need. It is ever so soft. It's a shame you can't show. It's a bit like you need smelly telly, but you also need feely telly as well. But if you can see these and feel them, it's really soft. I would put it on, but I know it will mess up with my microphone. Shall I give it a go? But I think it will. Well, maybe it won't. There we go. But isn't that lovely? Oh, that's so warm. Really nice. You could wear this as a face covering as well, couldn't you? Look at that.
You could.
Couldn't you?
Yeah.
That's so much easier when you're popping into the shop, isn't it? But it's just really warm. You know how when sometimes in the winter, when it's not really freezing, you don't want a full-on scarf. You don't want all the ends. You just want the bit that covers your neck. That's what you need with this. But it is lovely. You can really see, look, it starts off with the purple at the top and then these lovely stripes and then goes down to the cream at the bottom, just so you can see what it looks like. And it's knitted on circular needles, so we just go round and round and round and round and round, so you don't get the joining. So that's the purple and white one. I'm going to keep them on top of their bags, and then this one is the green one. Let me find that. There's the kit for that. I like these 2 colours. They're lovely. There's a really sort of vivid green, not lime, more yellowy sort of chartreuse green, but with the denim blue. But that's a lovely colour. I like the way that you've got the top, the blue band on the top, and then the greeny one. And then again, obviously, they all come packaged in these lovely little bags that you can use to gift it once you've made it, or you can use it as your project. And the full instructions, everything you need to know, all on here, all the patterns, which Helen has worked through tirelessly, so we know that they work. And finally, I'm going to put that one on there. The final colourway, which Helen will show you in a minute because she's got it on her table, is the raspberry and the pink. They're really lovely soft colours as well. There's nothing too sort of hard and brash about these. They're soft, and I think they sort of echo the quality of the wool. I think when you're using really soft wool, you want soft colours. So that's the 3rd colourway. So there's the raspberry and pink, the blue and the green, and the purple and the natural. Okay, now we do have all the needles that you need, and I'm going to go through those later on, but they're all on the website and we will tell you as we go along, but I don't want to spend too long talking about needles and pins because we want to get on with how knitting. So, welcome back, Helen. Nice to see you again.
It's lovely to be here. Yeah.
And we're on knitting this time.
I know. Most people know me as a crocheter, and but I really love knitting as well. So I love the way that knitted garments, the fabric that knitting produces. So I'd say I was probably more confident at crochet.
Right.
And I learnt to crochet first, and
That's unusual, actually, isn't it?
But I still feel like knitting, there is just so much to know. There's just so much to learn, different techniques, and I'm still learning. And I feel like every time I pick up a new pattern, I'm like, oh, this is a great new technique, and I'm kind of expanding my skills. So what I've tried to do with my Woolly Chic kits is to put together really easy to understand patterns that sort of stretch perhaps a new knitter.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
so
no,
I
that's
think
really good.
the nice thing about this shawl pattern is that if you knit it in a double knit, it comes out in a completely
different shawl
to the 4
doesn't
ply.
it?
And I'd say if you were a new knitter, then the double knit is absolutely perfect for just extending your knitting skills and just learning something a bit more than your basic knit and purl.
Right.
And so the 2 designs that I've got to show you today actually just use the knit stitch. So for those people who perhaps don't like purling, because I've heard lots of times people say, oh, you know, purling is a bit of a faff, and that this is great because these patterns just use the knit stitch, whether it's in the round for the cowl or whether it is straight.
So the whole thing is just just knitted.
And I've actually knitted both the shawl and the cowl on circular needles. Now you could knit the shawl on straight needles, and I saw Nicola from a previous show, and she had really long needles, and she puts them under her arm, and you know, that's a real kind of Yorkshire way to knit, I think.
Yes, the further north you go, the more they put them under their arm.
Yes, yeah. So you could knit this shawl on really long straight needles.
Yes.
But I would say that because you end up with so many stitches, I think the final row is 155 stitches on your needles. I really like circular needles knitting in rows, in backwards and forwards.
So what size circular do we need for the big
shawl?
So
for the big shawl, you need 7mm needles, and that's another thing that is great about this pattern. Is
so
that
we've got those
up quick. Yeah.
If you need those, they're on the website. 7mm circular needles. If you just scroll down below the Watch Live section, those are the needles you've got, and we've bought them specifically just for this show.
So 7mm, and with a cord length of 80 centimetres, because that will give you enough space to be able to fit all those 155 stitches.
Because it's really nice, because we can be very specific with designers. So Helen told me exactly what she wants. So right, we'll buy those, because we don't always want to put the needles in the kits, because a lot of you say, well, I've got the needles, but then some of you haven't. So there's the option. If you need the 7mm 80 centimetre needles, they're on the website. So GHZW04, in case you need to know the code.
So I have, so this design for the shawl, this design was inspired by a vintage knitting pattern that my aunt lent me, and she'd knitted a poncho in the 1960s with tassels and in exactly the same. So I adapted the pattern, and it was actually a vintage shawl called Knit Today, Wear Tomorrow.
Wow.
I thought, wow, you would have to be really, really speedy to be able to knit a whole shawl. But the beauty of this pattern is that it is really quick to knit. It grows really quickly because it's made up of yarn forward, knit 2 together stitches. And so that's what I thought I'd show you. I'd show you how to start.
Talk to me about the wool as well.
Oh, so shall I just
talk to me about the wool?
So I've started the other colourway.
I love that colourway. So, that's the ice cream parlour.
And the kit comes. So the kit comes with 8 balls of wool.
Yeah.
25, and I've wound them all into 25-gram balls.
Because they're manageable.
So the white and the grey is from a sheep called a Jacob sheep, and that comes from the West Yorkshire Spinners. And then the raspberry and the denim in the other shawl is from my family's farm in Pembrokeshire.
Yeah, that's why I was getting confused with the floral ply one.
They've got about 450 sheep of 3 different breeds, and I was lucky enough to be able to get the wool spun and then spun in Yorkshire and then dyed in Yorkshire in these lovely colours.
Wow.
So yeah, so it's nice to be able to say I know where the wool comes from.
Yeah, because it comes from his farm.
Yeah, and it is, and I know that they're happy sheep and that they're well looked after. And
knitted in happy sheep wool.
Yes, yeah,
that's really important,
hasn't travelled too
it?
far. Well, from Wales to Yorkshire to be spun, and then back down to Hitchin for me to be able to design patterns.
That's lovely though, isn't it? And also that you've used your aunt's pattern as just a real story
there's a story, a family connection. So, so that's
okay.
So I just move that.
How do we do it then?
So
where do we start?
You start at the bottom. So it's a triangular shawl which starts from the tip, and you work increasing your stitches, and the stitches increase at the end of the row and the middle of the row. And in fact, I need a stitch marker, because that's really, there we go. So yes, the key thing is that stitch markers are really, really useful, and I think you've got some of those on.
We do have stitch markers on the website. If you go onto the Yarn Lane website, you'll find them there. We have, I think, a couple of different varieties as well, but they are really important.
Right. So because you're starting at the tip, you only need to cast on 3 stitches. So in order to do that, I'm going to put I've done a slip knot and put the first loop onto my left-hand needle. Now I'm right-handed, so I'm going in with my right needle. The problem with circular needles is that the wire kind of does get a bit in the way when you're only working with a few stitches. So just casting on, been putting my right needle into the loop, wrapping the yarn around, under, and then I'm going to put that loop onto my needle. Now I know that there's many different ways of casting on, but this is how I do it. So as if I was knitting the stitch, going in, wrapping the yarn around, taking the loop up and over your left needle. So there I've got my 3 stitches. So then I need to increase to 5 stitches, and to do this I'm going to knit into the front and back loop of the first 2 stitches and then knit the last stitch.
Oh,
so this is a way of increasing.
A little bit. That's better.
Yeah, more in the middle. So that's,
get really close now.
Yeah, so I can go into the front of the loop,
okay,
wrap the yarn around, and then come round to the back, knit into the back, yarn round, and then I can take off that loop, and I've got 2 stitches. There I do the same. So knit into the front, come round to the back, knit into the back, and take those off. So there I've got 4, and knit the last one. Okay.
So now I've got 5.
So 5. So the next row is just knitting all those 5 stitches. So in, wrap the yarn round and take that off. 1, 2.
So you get a sort of a little break every other row.
Yeah. And this is really the foundation of very many lace knitting patterns, where you do one row where you have the lacy stitches, and then you do a row of knit stitches. Okay, so that was my knitting row. So, and this really sets up the pattern for the shawl. So I'm going to knit the first 2 stitches, knit 2, and then do a yarn forward, and this is what makes the sort of holes in your shawl. So you then bring the yarn forward almost as if you were doing a purl stitch, and then I've got to make sure I do this right. Yarn forward, then I'm going to knit one, and that's your middle stitch, and then yarn forward and knit the last 2 stitches, and then I've increased by doing those yarn forwards.
So it's quite simple, really. Once you've worked out the yarn forward and getting it in the right place.
That's it. Yeah,
but
it's really
looks
straightforward.
Very intricate, doesn't it?
And it creates a kind of waffle texture.
Yeah, which traps the air.
Yeah.
As well.
So the next row is just knitting every stitch. Knit every stitch. And then I'll increase from 7 stitches to 9 stitches. So this is just the setup. The first 11 rows are the setup of the shawl. So I knit the first 2 stitches, then I do a yarn forward, I knit the next 3 stitches. 2, 3, yarn forward and knit 2. And then the next row, knit every stitch. See, my yarn's in a tangle there. It's because I had to pull with the wound balls. It's sometimes really good to be able to pull the strand out from the middle of the ball.
Yes.
And that then stops it from kind of rolling all around your floor. If you've got cats, then it sort of gives them something to chase.
And they run off with it, don't
they? But the thing is, when you do from a new ball, you end up sort of having loads of having to pull loads out to get the end.
Yeah, to get the end. I'm not very good at doing that. I usually just work from the outside because I keep trying to pull them out and I never get the right thing, so I just do the centre. But they're manageable size. That's what I like about them.
Yeah, they are. And so the reason why I've wound them into 25 gram balls is because you change colour every time you come to the end of a ball.
Okay, well that's nice and easy.
So you get different size stripes, obviously, because you're going wider from the bottom.
Oh, of course.
So you get a wider stripe at the bottom, and then smaller stripes as you go up, but you just change colour every time you get to the end of the ball.
So what happens if you change mid-row then?
I wouldn't advise changing mid-row. I would try and judge how much wool you've got, and if you've got better, rather than do yarn chicken and sort of chase after.
I always find if you knit faster, it lasts longer.
But it doesn't work like that.
Sadly,
you don't want to run out mid-row. You kind of want to leave a really good sized tail at the end for weaving in. But also the good thing is if you have got a couple of grams left over, you can then make the pom-poms out of those.
Yes.
So,
yes, that's true. And I love the way the pom-poms are made from this yarn because they feel quite different.
So there's enough wool in the kit for you to make the pom-poms.
Okay. So if you want to make the pom-poms for the large scarf, you need the small pom-pom maker. The
small one, yeah.
Which we have.
Yeah, which is, and I use this, it doesn't look very big, but I use the one that is the yellow one.
Yeah, which is, so yes, because this pack contains
So that's the bigger out of the two.
So you need the yellow one, which is the 1 5/8 inch one.
And these pom-pom makers are fantastic. They require,
that's what this one is. This one's called small.
Yeah, if we've got enough time, I'll show how to use them.
We've got two the extra small pom-pom is for the 4-ply one, but if you want to make the pom-pom for this one, you need the small. Yes, and there's 2 pom-poms in each pack, which is strange. So there's 2 smalls and 2 extra smalls.
Yes,
so you need to use the yellow one, which is the 1 5/8 inch. So if you want to make exactly the same pom-poms here, then you need to buy this one that's on screen at the moment, the small, and use the yellow one, not the pink ones. But you get 2 pom-pom makers of that. Okay, back to knitting.
So back to knitting. So the next row, so I'm on row 7, and this is where I'll do some knit 2 togethers. So the pattern is the first 2 stitches you knit, and that's the same on every row. You knit the first 2 and the last 2 stitches, then yarn forward, and at this point we're going to knit 2 together. So I'm going to take the left hand loop that's on my needle and put my hook under that loop and the right one. So I'm putting my hook through those 2 stitches and then wrapping the yarn round the needle and taking those 2 stitches off. So I've knitted those 2 stitches together. Then I'm coming to the middle stitch, so I'm going to go yarn forward and knit 1, yarn forward and knit these 2 together, so exactly the same way, putting my needle through both from the knitwise under both of those stitches and taking them off the needle. Then yarn forward, and that's my increase, and then knit the last 2 stitches.
Yeah, so it's just, so as long as you've learnt yarn forward and knit 2 together.
Yeah, and if you're using big needles and chunky-ish yarn, it makes it a lot easier for you to be able to see those stitches and to be able to see where you're going to be putting your knitting needles. So the next row is just knit every stitch. Now this is a 4-row pattern repeat. So you are doing the same. Once you get to row 11, you'll see what the 4 rows are. And for confident knitters, they'll just have that 4 rows in the head, and they'll just carry on. But what I've done in the written instructions, the pattern is I've actually written out every single row. So I've written
I think that's
out
really nice though, because everybody will reach their comfort zone at a different point, won't they?
Yeah, that's it. And so and when you are starting out with knitting, it's really satisfying to be able to sort of check the pattern, see how many of those yarn forwards and knit 2 togethers you have to do, and where the increase is in the middle, and then just to be able to tick them off. So that was just something that when I was learning to knit, I found really useful. So
no, I think it is, because everyone will reach that at a different point. But it's also a way sometimes, even in 10 rows time, of just double checking that you're right.
Yes,
and you can do that.
Yeah, and
it's great.
Yeah, but then it means that there's pages and pages and pages.
I know, but how lovely if you get to then go, oh yeah, I've got this.
But really, if you're a confident knitter, you probably only need the first page of the pattern, which tells you these 4 row repeats. So
yes,
so I'm on the 4th row of the repeat. So I've made my first 2 knit stitches, yarn forward, knit 2 together, yarn forward. Now instead of just knitting 1 stitch, I now knit the 3 stitches that are in the middle. So 1, 2, so this is actually my middle stitch, and it's this stitch that I'm now going to put the stitch marker in, because that's really useful to know where your middle stitch is. So,
okay. And then you can...
that's the 3.
So you haven't got too much to undo.
No.
If you get...
Well, but also because when you're working with a lot more stitches, you're doing the same pattern, you're doing the same thing, yarn forward, knit 2 together, yarn forward, knit 2 together, up until that middle stitch. And it's at the middle stitch then that you do your yarn forward for your increase.
Right, okay.
And then you knit either 1 stitch or 3 stitches, depending on which row you're on.
Okay.
So that's knitting to the end. Okay. And what I'll show you on this shawl.
Yeah, that's fine. If you lay it flat, you can see it really well.
Yeah, the middle then produces like a spine.
Yes, it does, doesn't it?
And that marks, so it's good to be able to put your stitch marker into the middle stitch, because that then forms this middle spine of your shawl, and then your yarn forwards and your knit 2 together kind of create these sort of radiating lines going out.
It's lovely. I think the yarn and the colours and the pattern work really well together because it feels like a very natural, organic pattern.
Yes, yeah, it's really cuddly.
It's really cuddly.
Warm, and
You could put this on in bed, couldn't you, or in the car? You know, when you're just like, oh, I just really need to warm it. And because it's such beautiful quality, and I think there's something, I don't know whether it is because it's such natural wool. The colours aren't brash.
No.
They're just subtle and gentle. Even the pink.
And I think they will go with whatever you've got in your wardrobe. So they'll go with your winter coat and so and that's the lovely thing about having your own wool spun is that you can get it dyed in your favourite colours.
Yeah, so, but they don't come out as
lucky.
Really bright colours. They are still have that really natural
kind
feel
of a
to
muted kind of feel.
I know, I don't know which one I like the best actually because I love this. This is great with a pair of jeans, isn't it? This blue one, but then that's so pretty.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Depends whether you're a pink or blue person.
I suppose
maybe.
so.
So I've kind of demonstrated the first 11 rows of the pattern,
great.
and then it's just a repeating pattern. I just hold up this one. So
this is the 4-ply one that I talked about earlier. That's in the raspberry.
Yeah. So I have. So actually, my mum knitted this little sample for me. So thanks, Mum, for helping me out. And you can see it's a lot finer. And she's blocked this, so it does open out the stitches.
Yeah, this is the 4-ply one.
Yeah, quite a lot. So this is the in raspberry.
You're gonna put the code on.
Because you're knitting this, and so for the 4-ply, you need 5mm needles. So whereas the double knit was 7mm, so 5mm.
So we've got that one here. The code on that one is WMZW13. So that's the 5mm 60cm needles. They'll be back in a minute. But they're on the website. But that's important that you don't use the 7mm.
No, that's it. Although normally for 4-ply, if you were knitting a ball of, if you were knitting a pair of socks, you would probably use 2.5. Or even maybe 2mm with 4-ply, 2.5mm on circular needles. So you obviously a 5mm is a lot bigger than you would normally use if you were making any other garment. But because you're making lace, a lacy pattern, 5mm is great. However, it does get a bit more tricky to see your stitches as you're knitting with the finer wool. So a tip that I want to share with everyone is lifelines. Now I don't know if Rebecca you've ever used lifelines in your knitting.
No, I haven't. But I'm going to learn something today.
Well, with any kind of lace pattern, especially if you're using 4-ply, and you've got a repeating pattern, if you drop a stitch or if you if all of your stitches fall off the end of your needle or anything, or even you make a mistake in the pattern and you do the wrong row, pulling out 4-ply in a lace pattern where you've got yarn forwards or yarn overs.
Oh, does it stick?
Well, it's not that it sticks. It's how do you pick up those stitches?
Oh,
how do you pull back and get to get back to the place where you've made a mistake? Now, sometimes, when I've made loads of mistakes in knitting, and knitting backwards is a good way of doing it. You undo the stitches.
I've done that.
But with lace knitting, it can be really, really tricky. So, what my tip is that take a strand of like really bright yarn and thread it onto a wool needle, and then just at the point where you're maybe a bit tired or you're putting your knitting down maybe for a few days, put a lifeline in. So that is where you basically thread your alternate yarn onto your needle so that it goes underneath those stitches.
Okay.
And keeps them safe.
But
so
if you make a
mistake,
when should I do this? When should I do this?
Yeah, well, that is the tricky. I would do it kind of, maybe every few rows, and just have a lifeline in there at some point.
I love it.
So that if you
this.
have if you make a mistake, and the great thing is if you don't make a mistake, you pull out that lifeline and go, yeah, you didn't need the lifeline.
It's like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire,
yeah,
isn't
and
it?
you can move. Yes, yeah. Use your lifeline.
No.
So anyway, that's just my
That's a
my
really,
tip.
really good idea. Having I've not knitted this before, so tried to unpick it.
Well, but any lace knitting that involves very fine, either lace weight yarn or 4-ply yarn, where you've got a pattern that's a bit tricky, that might you might go wrong, you might not, but anyway, use a lifeline.
That's a really good idea. And this pattern is exactly the
lifeline.
same as the chunky shawl.
Yes,
exactly the same.
It's exactly the same pattern. So just the setup rows that I showed you on the double knit shawl, this is exactly the same, but it is like knitting with air. It's so light. It's so incredible, soft.
But this is a real
fluffy.
sort of accessory scarf, isn't it? So this will keep your neck warm, but it will just look beautiful.
And it's a bit stylish as well because it's in.
But I was looking at both
lovely.
these, thinking, if you were going to buy one of these ready-made,
yes.
oh my God.
Yes, it would be really expensive. And just to say about the yarn, it's award-winning.
Oh, the award-winning. Yes, since Helen's been on, she's won an award.
I have.
Tell us about your award.
I have won an award, or the yarn won the award, given to me by the British Knitting and Crochet Awards, organised by Let's Knit magazine, and they invited me to apply for the awards. And so I entered my heart spun, which I only had spun at the beginning of the year, and it won the Sustainable Eco Product of the Year award, which I'm really proud of. Yeah, I'm really kind of totally chuffed that it won the award. And the reason why it is the Sustainable Eco Product of the Year is because it is 70% British wool from Blueface Leicester sheep, not my aunt and uncle's sheep, I would say, but British, they're definitely British, and 30% tencel. And tencel comes from wood pulp. So it comes from renewable, sustainable forests that are grown in Europe and South Africa. And so it means that this product is 100% biodegradable. It has no harmful processes have been used to make it. So it's a really good environmentally friendly,
really lovely. What a lovely
and luxurious.
Thing. Yeah.
The tencel is what gives it that sort of sheen.
It
and
does.
shine.
It isn't completely matte, but it's not sheen. It has that. It does look very expensive, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, and if you
make this, yarn,
if you want to make the
definitely.
little one, you need the smaller pom-pom maker. Just saying, because these are much smaller pom-poms.
Yeah. So that's the purple.
So you need this pack here, which is called the extra small, and it has 2 in it, but you need the purple one, which is 1 inch.
Yeah.
So the extra small pack, but you need to use the purple one.
Yeah.
You can use the other one, but it'll just be a bit smaller.
Yeah.
But so you need the small pack for the big shawl and the extra small pack for the little shawl.
So can I just show how to? I've got to work out what I'm doing. So on the bigger shawl, I'll just show you the stretchy cast off, because that was a new cast off for me.
So on the circular, you should just to anyone who's not. I have a lot of people say I've never knitted straight on circular. You just pretend they're normal.
Yeah,
you get
just
to the
turn
end
at the end of the row.
So you're not going round and round.
No, and that's what I'll do now. So I'm what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish off the increase row. So this is the row with the yarn overs and knit 2 together. So I'm going to finish this row, and then you cast off on a knit row. And because these shawls would really benefit from blocking, you don't want to cast off too tightly. You want to have a loose cast off, and so one cast off that I'd recommend, and this is all described in the pattern, is to use a stretchy cast off, or a Russian cast off. I didn't know it was called that, but that's what it's called. So yeah, I'm coming to the end of my needle, and it's a circular needle, but it's straight, and then just turning it around. So for a stretchy cast off, I'm just going to refer to my pattern just to remind.
Refer to my instructions.
Refer to the instructions. so that I know exactly what I'm doing. Right, so I'm going to knit the first 2 stitches. Knit the first 2 stitches. Oh yeah, I remember. So,
Yeah,
and then slip those 2 stitches back onto the left needle. Whoops. It's a bit fiddly because, right. So I'm going to slip them onto the left needle, then I'm going to knit into the back of those stitches, knit both of those together, up through the back of those stitches. So I've got 1 loop on my hook. Then I'm going to just say knit both onto the, and then knit 1, and then again pass them onto the, and then you just repeat that stitch, so then knit into the back and knit 1. So each time you're knitting 2 together,
then putting them onto the other
putting
needle.
them onto the, so then you're putting your needle through
and then knitting into the back
and knit into the back, and so each time you're taking off 1 loop really, so you're casting off. So I'm knitting another one, and then
so I guess what you're doing is almost a stitch in between each
it
cast
just
off.
means, yeah, that those, by knitting them 2 together, they've got much more stretch than if I just a normal cast off. I would just knit 2 and then pass 1 over the other, but that tends to be a bit more sort of tighter. So just by knitting,
yeah, no, it is really, the edge looks really nice.
Yeah, and so once you've finished, you could crochet around the edge. That's a really good way of weaving in the ends, is by crocheting in. So again, in the pattern, there's an example of how to do a crocheted edge,
Oh,
yeah.
that's
So
nice. And you've given the pattern for
yeah,
the crocheted edge as well.
yeah. So I don't want to do too much because I'm going to go back and I'm probably going to finish this shawl. So I don't want to cast off all my stitches.
Well, you definitely need to finish it. It's just beautiful.
Just wanted to just give you a quick demonstration on how to do that.
Yeah, no, I think that's really. I think a lot of
cast
people
off.
would be interested in that anyway, because that applies to so many projects, doesn't it? About
Yeah.
sometimes you cast off and everything's really, really tight.
It's really tight, and then when you're blocking it, you just can't pull it and stretch it out to its full kind of potential.
It looks so beautiful. Like you say, really, really expensive. And actually, now you've explained the pattern. It's knit 2 together, yarn forward.
It's
shouldn't
really
tell people
easy.
that, should we? Though, should go, gosh, this is really, really hard.
But there's bits of it which are hard in that you do need to concentrate. It's not a pattern that you could probably just knit away, watch the television, not look at your hands. Which a lot of knitters, that's the lovely thing about knitting, that you just can kind of
but then it's not so
away
boring,
with the
though, is it? That's
no,
what I like.
It's definitely a lovely, interesting knitting project. So
it's not like knit 20 inches of stocking stitch.
No. No, which kind of go, oh God, yeah. So shall I talk about the cowl now?
Yes, so now we'll move on to the cowl.
Now the cowl is...
right, what do we need for the needles? Just a second.
So for the needles, you need 3.5 millimetre, is that what I've said?
Let's hope so, 40 centimetres.
Yes, 3.5 millimetre.
So those...
circular needles.
Circular needles, there they are on the screen. So if you want to buy the cowl, these are the needles you need if you don't already have them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's knitted in the round, and it's knitted using a technique called helical knitting, which gives you the stripes. It means that you can change colour. Helical. And the pattern is actually been designed by a really good friend of mine, Jane Hickman. So she's designed this pattern specifically for the Heartspun yarn to show off how lovely the colours are together when striped. So these stripes are made with no jogs or no carrying the yarn at the back. It's a simple technique where you just knit one round in one colour, then you drop the yarn in that colour, you pick up the next colour, and you carry on knitting. And I don't know if you can see that. There's a slight kind of, you can see the join here.
Yeah.
But when I block that, that will disappear. So the key thing is not to pull your stitches too tight, but that's the back. And if I show you the front, so that's the front. So you can hardly see the join there.
No,
but
that's beautiful.
It makes stripes that are kind of in a spiral shape.
Yes.
So this is just knitted. It starts off with rows of garter stitch, and then you join in the round, making sure that you're not twisting your yarn, and then I think you do 8 rows at the bottom of garter stitch, and then you join in the round and you start working the stripes.
It's ever so soft though, isn't it? Which is
so
something you
soft.
can't see. It's so
Yeah.
soft. I mean,
and a lot of people say with British wool, oh, it's really itchy,
No,
and I
it
can't
isn't.
wear it close to my skin. And this is really warm, so it has all the benefits of wool.
It's not
but
itchy at all.
But you can wear it close to your skin.
Is that the tencel?
That's the tencel that softens it, but also the breed of sheep that have gone into it. They say that that it's the British equivalent of the merino sheep. So the blue-faced Leicester is thought to be the softest breed of sheep.
It is very, very soft.
Yeah.
And you can tell sort of, it's like when you have cashmere, it folds up to nothing, doesn't it?
Yeah, it goes tiny.
So you can just put this in your pocket for a little cool day.
Yes, yeah.
In your pocket.
And just slip it over your neck, tuck it into
It's
your
always
coat.
that bit that gets cold though,
yeah,
isn't it?
exactly. And it's an ideal just to sort of pop into your
Well, sometimes also if your coat is quite sort of close fitting, you haven't got the room for the scarf ends.
Yeah, you can feel a bit bumpled up, can't you, if you're kind of wrapped around. But no, these cowls will keep you nice and cosy and warm.
Really lovely.
So I'll just demonstrate just changing colour for the helical knitting. So although sometimes you do get your balls of wool kind of a bit tangled. Okay, so it's just knitting. It's just knit each stitch. So going from 7mm needles to 3.5mm needles. And I know that I'm doing the raspberry because I'm going into the pink stitches. So you kind of work out where you are.
And you're not having to carry wool either.
No.
Carry the yarn, it's just sitting at the end.
Yeah. So I'm coming up to the last raspberry stitches. And this one. Okay, now this one kind of goes a bit baggy, but as soon as you drop the raspberry and pick up the pink, that tightens that stitch. And then you just carry on knitting with the pink. It's that easy.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you can't see how it sort of spirals but stays straight at the same time.
No, it's clever. And the fact that you can't see the join, once it's blocked, you can't see which is where the beginning and end has been. So yeah, you just then keep knitting. So you see I've got my raspberry, and then I've just got my strands here.
So yeah, you don't really have to, you're not counting or thinking about it.
And you don't need a stitch marker or anything, because you just realise that you're onto the next colour of the yarn, so you just drop that, pick up the next one, carry on knitting. So yeah, so that is that's helical knitting in the round on circular needles, and you just carry on going until you run out of your wool. So there is exactly enough wool in the kit for you to make a cowl, and there's no measuring, you just can kind of keep knitting.
So you do one colour of ribbon garter at one end?
Yeah, so you've got exactly the same amount of wool for...
so when you've run out of the one colour,
yeah, you can then do...
finished.
Yeah, and then you work in rows of the garter,
yeah.
so you're just still knitting and you're working in rows, and then you just sew up.
Okay.
You just sew up these little end bits and
That's
block
brilliant.
it, and away
no
you go.
counting rows or anything.
No, that's it.
These are lovely, aren't they? Wow.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about the shawl pins, which we haven't done yet, because when Helen was designing these, we were talking about the kits. I said, well, what do we need? She said, we need pom-pom makers and we need shawl pins. Now, I found these amazing shawl pins, which I think go really well with your heart spun yarn.
Yeah.
Because they're hearts.
Yeah.
I know shawl pins. Oh, haven't taken out the pouch. They're really, really popular because that's what you keep your shawl on with. So we've got 3 different ones, but I love this one the best. So I'm going to show you how it works. Okay, so when you put your shawl on, you can wear it just like that, but if you want to wear it then you need a pin. Look at this one. It's a red one. And they're wood.
Really
They're
nice.
not plastic. This is wood. This is a wood one. So all you do is you put it through your shawl and out the other side, like that. Or you put it in your hair, if you've got long hair. You hold it up.
That looks good.
But it looks really lovely,
Yeah,
doesn't
looks
it?
really
So we've
nice.
got the red one, the heart one. We've got this one here that's a stick and a pin. So you just put it through the same way, and that's a flower. And I can't find the other one. What did I do? Oh, I've turned it over. And then this one that's just a stick. So let's do the shawl, the pin that's the pin and the flower. That's called Garnet Rose. Have you got that one? Okay, that one. So you put the stick through the flower. So it depends which one you want to have. And these are all wood. They're not plastic. And then there's the other one that looks like a leaf. It's called orchid, but it's like a carved leaf. Or there's this lovely red heart one, which I think was really nice.
Yeah.
Because it's wood as well.
It's, yeah.
Just looks lovely. So if you want a shawl pin, you can use them for any shawls. But I know that when we've done them before, they've been quite popular. So I thought I'd get some new ones because I really like that one. Pom-poms.
Yeah.
Can we have a quick pom-pom
Do
lesson?
a quick
Can we have a pom-pom
demonstration
lesson?
on how to make a pom-pom with these really clever
Which one
gadgets.
we're using? Sorry, we're using the small one
Yeah, so
Yeah.
this one is the,
that you use for the large shawl,
yes, that's it. So
double knit shawl.
what you do is you peel open, I call them arms, so you've got 2 together, and then you just wrap them round. Now, a lot of people will have made pom-poms using cardboard rings.
Oh, hours. They
And
take hours.
they
don't
take they and also they're fiddly because you're having to pass the wool through the middle of the
But you
cardboard.
have to
or-
wind. Do you remember winding tiny balls and getting them through?
And so with this one, you wind them round and round. And my tip is don't overfill them too much because you then end up having to do a lot of trimming and snipping. So if you can kind of
So how far do you fill? How far
so
do you
I'll
fill
just
them?
show. So you just wrap them round so that they go all the way over from one side to the other side. Here we go. And then you can keep seeing how much space there is between the white bits either side. I'd say I need to wind a bit more.
Because I think I over wind mine.
Yeah, well,
I
the-
fill them so they're so tight you can barely
Yeah,
close
and
them.
you feel like that's what you should do
Yes.
because you want the fullest of pom-poms.
Mm.
I think, no, that's about, I'd say that's perfect. So there's still a bit of space
Oh,
either
okay.
side.
So as long as you wind evenly,
Yeah,
but
you-
have a little bit of space.
Yeah, try to get both sides the same. So then we can open out the other side, and you've got both of the arms together, and then you just start winding it round.
I definitely overfill mine because I can barely shut them.
Yeah, but then it makes it really difficult to cut in
Very
between
hard,
them.
yes.
And then when you release it from the pom-pom maker, it then just isn't very sort of round shaped.
Yes.
So try not to overfill it, but obviously fill it enough to be able to make it a decent fluffy pom-pom.
So when you do the big shawl, there is enough to make?
Yeah, so there's enough wool for each of the stripes, and then because I think how many stripes are there? So there's 3, 6, 7 stripes and 8 balls of wool in your in your kit. So there's easily enough to be able to make the pom-pom as well. So yeah, 7 stripes to get to 155 stitches.
Right.
And then
enough
yeah.
to make the cream pom-poms.
Yeah, right. So I've nearly...
This does look like a snowball. You should have called this one the snowball scarf, this little one.
Yes.
doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
The little pom-poms are just like little snowballs.
And you could do them different colours as well. You could have different, you have a plain,
yes.
Very plain shawl in natural,
Beautiful
but then with
pom-poms.
different pom-poms.
Yeah. But you need to use pure wool because honestly, it makes such a difference.
Yeah,
doesn't it?
It does. Well, it kind of fluffs up. It makes it a bit more fluffy. But it depends where you're going to put your pom-poms. I once made pom-poms for my Christmas tree and filled the whole Christmas tree just with pom-poms. And yeah, that looked amazing.
I bet it did.
It did. It looked really good. So I've wound both sides
I really
round.
want to do that.
And then I can just cut the top to release the yarn. So there we go. I've got both sides filled. And then there's a groove in between the two arms that you then, and now I would use as sharp scissors as you possibly can find. So embroidery scissors are great, and then you just snip between. All the way one side, and then snip it the other side.
It's like pom-pom revolution. If you've never used these before, I know when I first used them, I was amazed because I've got super big ones as well.
Yeah.
You can get them even bigger.
Yeah, you can get massive ones, and you can get heart-shaped ones and all sorts.
Fantastic.
So the next thing to do then is to tie round the middle, and ideally use yarn that isn't going to break. That's really strong. Now, chances are this one's going to break. But anyway, I'll.
Have you seen that through experience, Helen? Because that's definitely happened.
Well, if
to
you
me.
pull too tight.
Yeah, and then it goes.
Yeah, and so you tie it around the middle. You make a knot. See, I knew that was going to happen. Use the wrong yarn, and it's all right. Wonder if I've got a strong. Oh, I know. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to do it in red, but you probably won't see it. So, and this has got a bit of nylon in, so it'll make it stronger. So yes,
yes, because you could always, if you wanted for the hanging loop, you could use the pure wool for that, couldn't you? For hanging it on.
So tie and then double knot, and this is where probably. I hope that the magic will happen. You peel back the arms.
Of course it will.
Could be a disaster on television. So there we go.
It goes.
Yeah, it all collapses. So peel back.
We're going to finish the pom-pom.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, look at that.
And then fluff it.
That's beautiful.
And then all you need to do, oops, sorry, I'll hold it up. Then you just sort of trim off any loose bits, but there's really not much trimming that needs to be done.
That's beautiful.
And so that's
well,
how you
thank
make
you,
a
Helen. That's brilliant. So Helen will be back with us. What date?
The 18th.
18th.
Yeah.
18th. So she'll be back with us soon. But thank you so much. All the kits are listed on the website Below the Watch Live if you want to buy any of them. Which one you'll choose, I have no idea. They're just really lovely. Really just warm and soft and gorgeous. Anyway, thank you for joining us today. I hope you've learned as much as I have, even if it's just how to overfill your pom-pom. But lace knitting, I want all of these. Yarn Lane will be back on Wednesday when we're doing Punch Needle, because we haven't done Punch Needle yet. But please do send us your messages and then photos of your finished makes and give us some feedback because we love hearing from you. And join our fan page on Facebook because we all interact with each other there and it's a lovely, really sort of supportive environment. But thank you and we will see you on Wednesday.